This video is part 2 in a 2-part series on balance outstanding. And in this video, we're going to look how to use balance outstanding to calculate principal paid off and use that to calculate interest paid. Now, we first need to understand something about a loan. In a loan, the total payment per period, so each time you make a payment, it's made up of 2 parts. One part is the principal. Now, the principal reduces the original loan amount. Okay, and at the beginning, that principal is your actual loan amount. And the other part is the interest. Now, the interest is paid to the bank, and that's an extra charge paid to them. So we need to understand that the total payment per period is the principal repaid per period plus the interest charged. And what we're going to do is rearrange that into an equation that we're going to use later. So if we make interest the subject of our formula, the interest that we've paid, or the interest charged, is equal to the total amount paid per period, so that total payment, minus the principal repaid. And this we're going to use later to calculate interest paid. So we go back to the example from the part 1 video. Remember, a 20-year loan of 100,000 is to be repaid by means of monthly payments of 2,000 Rand, and the interest rate is 18% per annum, compounded monthly. Now we're being asked to calculate the amount of principal paid off by the end of the first year. That's very important. It's the principal paid at the end of the first year, as well as, so second part to the question, interest paid to the bank at this stage, also at the end of the first year. So this is a 2-part question. Always remember to read your questions very carefully and underline as you go. So there's 2 parts. So let's have a look at this first, the principal part. So in other words, we're going to look at calculating the principal paid off by the end of the first year. As with all finance questions, I want to just pop a timeline on here to just help me along. So we know that in that timeline, we've got our T0, T1, T2, but now we're going to the end of the first year, so let's pop our T12 in there. And we know that in total we've got 20 years, so I'll still keep that, T240. We know our present value is 100,000. And we've got our payments of 2,000 at the end of every month. Okay, cool. So now what we need to do is we need to calculate our principal paid off. So the principal amount paid off at T12, that's the end of the first year, it's simply the amount by which the original loan, that's 100,000, has been reduced from there, from T0 to T12. How much has it been reduced? So we need to know our principal at that point, and we also need to know our principal at that point. And that's where what we learned about in the part 1 video. That's actually our balance outstanding at that point. We need 100,000, take that away, and that's how much principal we have paid. So let's just write that down so we know what we're looking for. Okay, and we can remember. So our principal, that's how the amount by which the loan has been reduced, is equal to our balance outstanding, let's just shorthand that, balance outstanding at T0, which is actually just our loan of 100,000, and we subtract our balance outstanding at the end of that first year, so at T12, which is actually just our balance outstanding formula. So let's have a look. Balance outstanding at T0, well, that's 100,000. At the beginning, we still have to pay all of that. And we're going to subtract the balance outstanding at T12. Now, remember how we calculate balance outstanding? I'm using squiggly brackets just to help lay this out a little bit. To calculate balance outstanding, we take the 100,000, let it accumulate interest to T12, and we subtract the future value of all of these payments each month at T12. So let's do that. So I've got 100,000 and all its interest, which is 1 plus 0,18 over 12, which I'm actually just going to shorthand 1,015 just to save space, to the power of 12, and we minus all the payments according to the future value annuity formula. So that's 1,015 as well, to the power of 12 minus 1 over 0,015. Keep those in their squiggly brackets. Okay, cool. So let your calculator do all the hard work there. Let it do all the hard work, and you should land up with 6,520 Rand and 61 cents. So in other words, the loan has been reduced by 6,520 Rand and 61 cents after the first year. So this is the amount of principal that we have paid off. The loan has been reduced by that amount. Now let's look at part 2 of this question. This part says that we need to calculate the interest paid to the bank during the first year. Now remember this formula right from the beginning. Our interest paid is the total amount paid minus the principal repaid. So we want to look at our total amount paid minus our principal repaid. Let me go back and see if I can actually just grab. Let's just have a look at that timeline again, okay, in reference to this question here. I want to look at the total amount paid. So for that first year, so I know at the end of the first month I paid 2,000, at the end of the second month I paid 2,000, at the end of the third month I paid 2,000, etc. All the way to the end of the 12th month I paid 2,000. So let's first look at how much I've actually paid. Okay, so I have paid, so to get our interest paid, right, so I know that I have paid 2,000 Rand 12 times. So that's 2,000 Rand per month for 12 months. How much I've paid. But then I need to take away, here we see we take away the principal repaid, because this is my total amount. And that includes the principal and it includes the interest, but we take away the principal, so we're just left with the interest. We've just worked out the principal to be 6,520 and 61 cents. Because it's a two-part question, I can use the rounded off value. However, you could have also used the unrounded value. Especially if it was only asking you for interest paid, then you would need this to be the unrounded value. So I subtract, and I'm left with 17,479 Rand and 39 cents. So over the course of a year, that is just the interest. That is just the amount of extra money that you have paid to the bank.